Marcus Chin stood in his penthouse office, reviewing quarterly reports when he heard the commotion. The sound of running feet, a child's terrified sobs, and then his office door burst open. Little Emma Rodriguez, just 3 years old, ran straight toward him with tears streaming down her cherubous face. Her dark curls bounced as she stumbled in her small pink sneakers, her tiny hands reaching for him desperately. "Please." "He's not my dad," she wailed, throwing herself against his legs. Marcus froze, his papers scattering across the floor. Emma had been coming to the office with her mother, Sophia, his housekeeper, for the past 8 months. The little girl had always been shy, barely making eye contact with him. Now she clung to his expensive suit pants like he was her only lifeline. Sophia burst through the door moments later, her face pale and stricken with terror. Behind her, building security struggled to restrain a disheveled man who was shouting and trying to push past them. "Give me my daughter," the man roared, his face red with rage and something else, desperation tinged with cruelty. "He's not her father," Sophia cried out, positioning herself between the man and Emma. Her voice cracked with emotion, her hands trembling. "Marcus, please, I can explain everything. Just don't let him take her." Marcus looked down at the small child pressed against him, her whole body shaking with fear. Something primal stirred in his chest, a protective instinct he'd never experienced before. He gently placed a hand on Emma's small back, feeling her rapid heartbeat through her thin t-shirt. "Security, remove this man from the building immediately," Marcus commanded, his voice cold and authoritative. "Call the police. Now." The man, Sophia had mentioned an ex-husband named Diego once, months ago, struggled violently. "You can't do this. She's mine." "Sophia, you can't keep running from me. She was never yours," Sophia whispered, barely audible over the commotion. Her eyes met Marcus's, and in them, he saw years of secrets, pain, and fear. As security dragged Diego away, his threats echoing down the hallway, Emma's sobs began to quiet. She turned her tear-stained face up to Marcus, her brown eyes so wide and frightened that something in his carefully constructed world cracked. "Safe?" she whispered, her small voice breaking his heart. "Yes, sweetheart," Marcus heard himself say, surprising himself with the gentleness in his tone. "You're safe now." Sophia collapsed into a chair, her professional composure completely shattered. She was only 28, Marcus realized, though the weight she carried made her seem older in this moment. Her dark hair had fallen from its usual neat bun, and mascara tracked down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry," she gasped between sobs. "I never wanted to bring my problems to your doorstep. I'll resign immediately. I didn't know where else to go. He found us." Marcus carefully knelt down, still holding Emma's small hand. "Sophia, look at me." She raised her red-rimmed eyes. "Tell me what's happening. All of it." Sophia drew a shuddering breath, pulling Emma close. The little girl immediately reached for her mother, but kept one tiny hand locked around Marcus's finger. "Diego and I were married for 2 years, Sophia began, her voice hollow. "He was charming at first, but after we married, everything changed. He became controlling, jealous, violent. When I got pregnant, I thought maybe a baby would change him, make him gentler." She laughed bitterly. "I was so naive." Marcus listened, his jaw tightening as the story unfolded. The abuse got worse. He would disappear for days, come home drunk or high, scream at me, break things. He never wanted Emma. Called her a burden, a mistake. When she was 6 months old, he hit me so hard I ended up in the hospital. Sophia's voice broke. "The social worker there helped me see the truth. If I stayed, one day he might hurt Emma too. Or worse." Emma had quieted now, sucking her thumb and watching her mother with those huge, knowing eyes that had seen too much for such a young child. "I left everything," Sophia continued. "I took Emma and ran. My family is back in Guatemala. I couldn't go there, he would have found us. I changed our names legally, moved across the country. I've been running for 2 years, working whatever jobs I could find that paid cash, staying invisible. When I got the position with you 8 months ago, I thought maybe we'd finally found somewhere safe. How did he find you? Marcus asked quietly. I don't know. I've been so careful. I never use social media, never use credit cards, never. She stopped, her eyes widening. Emma's preschool. I had to provide my real information for the state subsidy program. I should have known better. I should have. Stop, Marcus said firmly. You did nothing wrong. You've been protecting your daughter. That takes courage. Sophia shook her head. You don't understand. Diego is dangerous. When he's drunk or using, there's nothing he won't do. He doesn't even want Emma, she's just leverage to control me. If he gets custody, even temporarily, I know what will happen. He'll use her to make me come back, and then… She couldn't finish. Marcus stood, his mind already working through the situation with the analytical precision that had made him a billionaire by 32. But underneath the strategy, something else simmered, a fierce, unexpected anger at anyone who would threaten a child. This child. Listen to me carefully, Sophia. I have resources, lawyers, security, connections. The best family law attorneys in the country. You and Emma are under my protection now. I can't afford, Sophia started. This isn't about money, Marcus interrupted, surprising himself again. He wasn't a warm person. He'd built his tech empire through calculated risk and emotional distance. He dated casually, avoided commitment, kept everyone at arm's length. Yet here he was, making promises to his housekeeper and her daughter like they were his own responsibility. Emma tugged on his hand. Hungry, she said in a small voice, hiccuping from her earlier tears. Sophia started to stand, falling back into her role. I'll prepare something. No, Marcus said gently. You're shaken up. Let me. He looked down at Emma. How about some mac and cheese? Emma's eyes lit up slightly, a tiny smile breaking through the fear. With the dinosaur shapes? Is there any other kind? Marcus replied, and was rewarded with a small giggle. As he led them toward the penthouse kitchen, Marcus made a decision. He didn't fully understand it, didn't want to examine it too closely. But seeing Emma's tear-stained face, hearing Sophia's story, witnessing the raw terror of a mother trying to protect her child, it had awakened something in him he didn't know existed. Whatever it took, whatever resources he had to deploy, he would make sure Diego never touched this little girl again. Emma had run to him for protection, and he would not fail her. He just didn't know yet that this moment would change all three of their lives forever, in ways none of them could imagine. The police arrived within 20 minutes, taking statements in Marcus's private conference room. Detective Sarah Martinez was thorough, compassionate, and blunt about Sophia's situation. Mrs. Rodriguez, I need to be honest with you, the detective said, her pen hovering over her notepad. Your ex-husband hasn't broken any laws yet by showing up here. You have a restraining order from California, but it's not valid in New York without proper filing. He could file for emergency visitation rights, especially if he claims you've been keeping his daughter from him. Sophia's face went white. Emma sat in the corner with Marcus's assistant, Rachel, coloring in a book someone had quickly purchased from the building's convenience store. But he's violent, Sophia protested. I have hospital records, police reports. From 3 years ago, in a different state, Detective Martinez said sympathetically. I believe you. But legally, unless he does something threatening here and now, this becomes a family court matter, not a criminal one. And family court. She hesitated. It can be slow. Judges often favor reunification, shared custody. No, Sophia whispered. You don't understand. He'll hurt her. Or he'll use her to hurt me. He told me once, her voice dropped. He said if I ever left him, he'd make sure I lost everything I loved. Marcus had been listening silently, his mind racing. What if she had better legal representation? Someone who could expedite the process, provide evidence of the danger. Detective Martinez looked at him carefully. Mr. Chun, are you personally involving yourself in this case? Yes, Marcus said simply. The detective's eyebrows rose. May I ask in what capacity? It was a fair question. Marcus barely knew Sophia beyond their professional relationship. She arrived at 7 each morning, cleaned his penthouse, organized his domestic life with quiet efficiency, and left by 3 to pick up Emma from preschool. They'd exchanged perhaps 100 words total in 8 months. Yet when he'd looked into Emma's terrified eyes, something fundamental had shifted. As her employer and... He paused, then decided on honesty. As someone who won't stand by while a child is put in danger. After the police left with promises to increase patrol around the building and expedite the restraining order transfer, Sophia finally broke down completely. Marcus awkwardly patted her shoulder while Rachel took Emma to the other room to watch cartoons. I'm sorry, Sophia sobbed. You must think I'm such a mess. I tried so hard to keep my personal problems separate from work. You hired me to clean your home, not to dump my trauma on you. Sophia, Marcus said, sitting across from her. Tell me something honestly. Why did you run to my office instead of security? She looked up, wiping her eyes. I don't know. I was in the lobby with Emma, and suddenly Diego was there, grabbing for her. She broke away and ran. I chased her, but she was faster. Children are when they're terrified. She ran straight for the elevator, somehow knew to press the button for the penthouse. It's like she knew. Sophia's voice cracked. Like she knew you'd keep her safe. Marcus felt that strange tightening in his chest again. Has Emma mentioned me? A ghost of a smile crossed Sophia's face. Every day. Mr. Marcus has nice books. Mr. Marcus smiled at me today. Mr. Marcus leaves his coffee cup in the same spot, so I can find it. You're kind to her in small ways. You probably don't even notice, but she does. He thought back over the past months. It was true that he'd started acknowledging Emma's presence. A nod here, a small smile there. Once, he left a chocolate on the counter after Sophia mentioned Emma loved sweets. These tiny gestures meant nothing to him, but apparently everything to a lonely little girl. Where will you go tonight? Marcus asked. Your apartment isn't safe if Diego knows where you work. Sophia's face fell. I don't know. A shelter, maybe? Or I could take Emma and drive somewhere, start over again. No, Marcus said firmly. You're not running again. You're staying here. Here. I have a guest suite. 3 bedrooms, fully furnished. You and Emma will stay until we've sorted this situation out legally and you're truly safe. Mr. Chun, I couldn't possibly. Marcus, he corrected. And yes, you can. You will. This isn't charity, Sophia. It's... He struggled for the words. It's the right thing to do. What he didn't say was how the image of Emma's tear-stained face haunted him. How her small hand in his had felt like a sacred trust. How the thought of Diego anywhere near her filled him with a rage he'd never experienced. Over the next week, an unusual routine developed. Sophia and Emma settled into the guest suite. Marcus hired the best family law attorney in New York, Catherine Brennan, a fierce advocate known for winning impossible cases. He also tripled his personal security and had a specialist team do background work on Diego Rodriguez. What they found made Marcus's blood run cold. He's got a record, David, his head of security, reported. Multiple domestic violence charges from before Sophia, all pleaded down or dismissed. History of substance abuse. Fired from his last 3 jobs for erratic behavior. And Mr. Chun, David hesitated. He's been posting on social media, making threats. Marcus read the posts on David's tablet, his jaw clenching. Diego had posted photos of the building, photos clearly taken of Emma at her preschool, rambling messages about taking back what's mine and teaching lessons. Get this to Catherine and Detective Martinez immediately, Marcus ordered. I want documentation of everything. But building a legal case took time, time during which Emma had nightmares, clinging to Sophia through the nights. Time during which Sophia jumped at every unexpected sound. Time during which Marcus found himself increasingly involved in their daily lives. He'd always kept his distance from people, preferring solitude and control. Now he found himself reading bedtime stories to Emma, her small body curled trustingly against his side. He found himself making breakfast for 3 instead of grabbing coffee on his way out. He found himself actually present in his own home for the first time in years. One evening, as he sat in his study reviewing contracts, Emma appeared in the doorway in her pajamas. "Can't sleep," she said softly. Marcus set aside his work. "Bad dream?" She nodded, padding over to him. To his surprise, she climbed into his lap, something she'd never done before. "Mama says you're keeping us safe," Emma said, her small finger tracing the buttons on his shirt. "I am," Marcus promised. "From the bad man?" "Yes." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Then, why?" It was such a simple question, yet Marcus found himself struggling to answer. Why was he doing this? He had no obligation to these people. He could have called the police that first day and been done with it. Because, he finally said, everyone deserves to feel safe. Especially little girls who like dinosaur-shaped mac and cheese. Emma giggled, then grew serious again. "Mr. Marcus?" "Yes. I wish you were my daddy instead." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He looked down at this tiny person who had somehow slipped past every defense he'd built and felt his carefully controlled world tilt on its axis. "Emma, sweetheart, you should get back to bed," he said gently, his voice rough with emotion he didn't want to examine. But as he carried her back to the guest suite, Emma sleepy in his arms, he caught Sophia's expression as she took her daughter. There was gratitude there, yes, but also something else. Something that looked like longing, hope, and fear all tangled together. "Thank you," Sophia whispered. "For everything. You didn't have to." "I know," Marcus interrupted. Because if he let her finish, if he let himself think too hard about what he was doing and why, he might have to confront feelings he wasn't ready to face. Later that night, alone in his study, Marcus stared out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. He'd built an empire through calculation and emotional distance. He'd sworn never to let anyone close enough to hurt him, not after watching his own parents' bitter divorce destroy their family. Yet here he was, lying awake worrying about a little girl's nightmares and her mother's haunted eyes. His phone buzzed with an email from Catherine Brennan, emergency custody hearing scheduled for next week. Diego's lawyer is arguing for immediate visitation rights. We need to be prepared. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. He would prepare. He would use every resource, every connection, every ounce of power he possessed. Because Emma had run to him crying, "He's not my dad," and he'd made her a promise. He just hadn't realized that in protecting her, he might be the one who ended up changed forever. The courtroom was austere and cold, nothing like the warm luxury of Marcus's penthouse. Sophia sat at the plaintiff's table beside Catherine Brennan, her hands twisted together so tightly her knuckles were white. Marcus sat directly behind them in the gallery, a silent pillar of support. Across the aisle, Diego Rodriguez cleaned up well. He wore a cheap suit, his hair neatly combed, his expression one of wounded righteousness. His lawyer, a public defender named James Walsh, had clearly coached him well. "Your Honor," Walsh began, "my client is a father who has been systematically denied access to his daughter for nearly 2 years. Ms. Rodriguez fled across state lines, changed her name, and has kept Emma from her father without just cause. Mr. Rodriguez has completed anger management courses, has been sober for 6 months, and has stable employment. He simply wants to be part of his daughter's life." Judge Patricia Carmichael, a stern woman in her 50s, listened impassively. "Ms. Brennan." Catherine stood, her presence commanding. "Your Honor, Ms. Rodriguez is not keeping a father from his child. She is protecting her daughter from an abuser. We have documented evidence of Mr. Rodriguez's violent history, including hospital records of injuries he inflicted on Ms. Rodriguez while she was pregnant. We have police reports, witness statements, and, she paused for emphasis, recent social media posts where Mr. Rodriguez made explicit threats against Ms. Rodriguez and her employer. Walsh objected. Those posts were taken out of context, mere expressions of frustration. Frustration that included stalking a 3-year-old at her preschool and attempting to physically grab her from a building lobby? Catherine shot back. The hearing devolved into legal arguments about jurisdiction, prior court orders, and the validity of evidence. Marcus watched Sophia's face grow paler with each passing minute. Then Diego took the stand. "I made mistakes," he said, his voice trembling with practiced emotion. "I was young, stupid, drinking too much. But I've changed. I've done the work. I've been going to therapy, attending AA meetings. I just want a chance to know my daughter. Is that so wrong?" "Mr. Rodriguez," Catherine began her cross-examination, "you claim to have changed. Yet 3 weeks ago you posted on Facebook, and I quote, 'She thinks she can keep what's mine. I'll show her what happens when you cross me.'"
What did you mean by that?
"I was upset. I didn't mean. And when you showed up at Mr. Chen's building and attempted to physically take Emma, causing her to run away in terror, was that the action of a changed man?" Diego's mask slipped for just a moment, a flash of anger in his eyes. "I have a right to see my daughter. You have no rights to a child you terrorized and abandoned," Catherine said coldly. But when Sophia took the stand, things got worse. Walsh was merciless in his questioning. "Ms. Rodriguez, isn't it true that you've been living in the home of Marcus Chen, a billionaire bachelor, for the past 2 weeks?" Sophia's face flushed. "He offered us protection." "Protection? Or something else? Isn't it convenient that you found yourself a wealthy man to support you? Perhaps that's why you're so eager to keep Mr. Rodriguez away. You've upgraded to a better provider." Objection. Catherine was on her feet. "Counsel is making unfounded implications. I'm establishing that Ms. Rodriguez has a pattern of using men for financial support and that her current living arrangement raises questions about her judgment and the environment Emma is being raised in." Marcus felt his jaw clench, so hard it hurt. The insinuation was clear and disgusting. Judge Carmichael sustained the objection, but the damage was done. Sophia left the stand in tears, and Marcus could see the doubt in the judge's eyes. To an outsider, the situation did look questionable, a housekeeper and her daughter living with her wealthy employer. During recess, Marcus found Sophia in the hallway, sobbing against the wall. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm ruining everything. They're going to think I'm some kind of gold digger who's using you, and they'll give Emma to Diego because at least he's her biological father, and—" "Stop," Marcus said firmly, grasping her shoulders. "Look at me, Sophia." She raised her tear-streaked face. "You are not ruining anything. You are a mother protecting her child. That lawyer is doing his job by playing dirty, but Catherine is better. We will win this." "But what he said about us living together, about me using you, is insulting to both of us," Marcus finished. "But it doesn't matter what they insinuate. The truth is what matters. The truth is that Emma is terrified of Diego for good reason. The truth is that you've been running for your life. The truth is—" He stopped, suddenly aware of how close they were standing, how his hands were still on her shoulders, how her eyes were locked on his. "The truth is," he continued more softly, "I'm not going to let him win." When they returned to court, Catherine called her star witness, Dr. Rebecca Winters, a child psychologist who had evaluated Emma at Catherine's request. "In my professional opinion," Dr. Winters testified, "Emma Rodriguez shows clear signs of trauma related to her father. When shown his photograph, she exhibited immediate distress, increased heart rate, hyperventilation, attempts to hide. She repeatedly stated, 'He's not my dad and don't let him get me.' This is not normal father-daughter attachment. Couldn't this be the result of parental alienation? Walsh challenged. The mother poisoning the child against the father? No, Dr. Winters said firmly. Parental alienation presents differently. Emma's fear is genuine trauma response, consistent with a child who has witnessed or experienced violence. Moreover, when asked about feeling safe, Emma repeatedly mentioned Mr. Chen, her mother's employer, despite having known him for less than a year. She called him the man who keeps the bad away. Children don't attach to random adults like that unless they feel genuinely protected. Marcus felt something shift in his chest at those words. Emma thought he kept the bad away. The weight of that trust was enormous. The hearing stretched across 2 days. Catherine presented evidence systematically. Hospital records showing Sophia's injuries, police reports, testimonies from neighbors who'd heard Diego's violent outbursts. She presented Diego's social media activity, his employment instability, his history of violated restraining orders with previous partners. Walsh countered with character witnesses claiming Diego had reformed, with his AA sponsor testifying to his commitment to sobriety, with his therapist's notes showing progress. On the second day, something unexpected happened. Diego's mother took the stand for the prosecution. Mrs. Rodriguez, Catherine asked Diego's mother, "Why did you agree to testify today?" The older woman, weathered and sad-eyed, looked at her son with a mixture of love and grief. "Because I love my granddaughter and I love my son, but I cannot lie. Diego is my baby, but he is also his father's son." She went on to describe a childhood marked by violence, a father who beat Diego and his mother, a cycle of abuse that Diego had promised to break, but never did. "When Sophia was pregnant, Diego called me drunk one night. He said having a baby was ruining his life. He said he wished it would just disappear. When Emma was born, he held her once and then left for 3 days. Came back high, angry, broke Sophia's wrist." The old woman wiped tears from her eyes. "I told Sophia to run. I helped her pack. Because I know my son, and I know what he's capable of when he's using. He loves Emma in his way, but love isn't enough if it comes with fists." Diego's face contorted with rage and pain. He started to stand, but Walsh pulled him back down. Judge Carmichael called a recess, and when she returned, her expression was grave. "I've reviewed all the evidence presented," she began. "This is a difficult case. Mr. Rodriguez has made efforts at rehabilitation, which this court acknowledges and commends. However, the evidence of past violence is substantial and concerning. More importantly, the child's welfare must be the paramount consideration." Marcus felt Sophia grip his hand from her seat in front of him. He squeezed back. "Therefore, I am issuing a temporary restraining order preventing Mr. Rodriguez from coming within 500 feet of Emma Rodriguez or Sophia Rodriguez. I am denying Mr. Rodriguez's petition for visitation rights at this time." However, she raised a hand as Catherine started to speak. "This is a temporary measure. Mr. Rodriguez, you will continue your treatment. You will remain sober. In 6 months, we will revisit this case. If you have maintained sobriety, completed additional therapy, and can provide a stable home environment, supervised visitation may be considered." It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. Sophia collapsed in her chair, crying with relief. Diego stormed from the courtroom, his lawyer chasing after him. Outside, in the cool afternoon air, Sophia finally let herself breathe. Emma was with Rachel at the penthouse, kept away from the courthouse deliberately. "Thank you," Sophia said to Marcus, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to repay you for everything you've done. The lawyers, the security, letting us stay with you." "You don't owe me anything," Marcus interrupted. "I do, though. I owe you everything. Emma's safety, our future." She stopped, fresh tears spilling over. "I need to start looking for a new place to live. We've imposed on you long enough, and now that we have the restraining order." Don't, Marcus said, the word coming out sharper than intended. Don't go. Sophia looked up at him, confusion and something else, hope, in her eyes. Marcus struggled with the words. He'd never been good at expressing emotion, had built his entire adult life around avoiding it. But standing there, having spent 2 days fighting for this woman and her daughter, having felt the terror of possibly losing them, he couldn't hide behind his walls anymore. These past few weeks, he began haltingly, have been different. Good different. Having you and Emma in my home, it's made me realize how empty it was before. How empty I was. I don't want you to go because... He stopped, afraid to continue, afraid of what he was feeling. Because? Sophia prompted softly. Because somewhere between Emma running into my office crying and now, you've both become important to me. More than important. He looked away, then forced himself to meet her eyes. I don't want to go back to the way things were. Empty and alone. Sophia's breath caught. Marcus, you don't have to feel responsible for us just because. This isn't about responsibility, he said firmly. This is about... He struggled for words. I care about Emma. She's become like...
He couldn't quite say it.
And you, Sophia. You're not just my employee. You haven't been for a while now. I just didn't want to admit it. They stood there in the fading sunlight, the courthouse behind them, the future uncertain ahead of them. Sophia reached out tentatively and took his hand. I care about you too, she whispered. But this is complicated. I'm still legally married, still sorting out my life. Emma's been through so much. I don't want to confuse her or make promises I can't keep. I know, Marcus said. We'll take it slow. No pressure. Just stay. Let's figure this out together. Sophia nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. Together, she agreed. What neither of them knew was that across town, Diego Rodriguez sat in a dingy bar, his temporary sobriety already broken, scrolling through photos of Emma on his phone with an expression that promised this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 3 months passed in a cautious, tender routine. Sophia and Emma remained in Marcus's penthouse, though Sophia insisted on continuing her work and paying rent, which Marcus secretly deposited into a college fund for Emma. The arrangement was unconventional, complicated, and slowly becoming something none of them had expected, a family. Emma blossomed. The nightmares decreased. She laughed more, played more, started calling Marcus, Mr. Marcus Dad, in a way that made his heart both soar and ache. He taught her to play chess with simplified rules, read her stories about brave princesses who saved themselves, and discovered he had a previously unknown talent for making pancakes shaped like animals. Sophia and Marcus circled each other carefully, aware of the growing attraction but respecting the complexity of their situation. Stolen glances across the breakfast table, hands brushing as they reached for the same cup. Late-night conversations after Emma went to bed, where they talked about everything, their pasts, their fears, their dreams. I never thought I'd trust anyone again, Sophia admitted one night as they sat on the balcony overlooking the city. After Diego, after everything, I built walls so high. But you... She trailed off. I know, Marcus said quietly. I built walls too. Different reasons, same result. Alone felt safer than vulnerable. And now... He looked at her, really looked at her, this brave, resilient woman who had survived so much. Now I think I was just existing before. This feels like actually living. Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights twinkle like stars. But their fragile peace was built on sand. Diego had been quiet, too quiet. The restraining order kept him physically distant, but Marcus's security team reported troubling activity. Diego had been fired from another job. His social media had gone dark. He'd stopped attending his therapy sessions. He's planning something, David warned Marcus. Radio silence from someone like Rodriguez usually means escalation, not compliance. Marcus tripled security, hired additional bodyguards for Emma's preschool routes, installed state-of-the-art surveillance around the building. But he couldn't control everything. The break came on a Saturday afternoon. Marcus had taken Emma to Central Park, something that had become their weekly tradition. Sophia had stayed behind to handle some paperwork for her pending divorce. 2 bodyguards accompanied them, discreet but vigilant. Emma was feeding ducks by the pond, laughing as they quacked and scrambled for the bread pieces she threw. Marcus stood nearby, phone in hand, half working on emails but mostly just watching her joy. "Mr. Marcus, Dad, look. That one's eating 2 pieces." Emma called out. Marcus smiled. "That's called being greedy, sweetheart." Everything happened in seconds. A man appeared from behind a tree, not Diego, but someone else, someone large and rough-looking. He grabbed Emma before anyone could react, his hand clamping over her mouth as she started to scream. "Don't move, or I run with her," the man shouted. Marcus's world went white with terror. Emma's eyes were huge with fear, her small body rigid in the stranger's grip. The bodyguards had their hands on their weapons but couldn't risk a shot, not with Emma right there. People around the pond screamed and scattered. "What do you want?" Marcus asked, forcing his voice to remain calm even as every nerve in his body screamed to attack, to protect, to save her. "Diego says to give you a message," the man growled. "His daughter, his rules. He's tired of waiting for the courts. He wants her back, or next time, nobody gets her back." "You're making a mistake," Marcus said, taking a small step forward. "There are witnesses everywhere. Security cameras. You'll never." "Shut up." The man jerked Emma, making her whimper. "I got my money. I deliver my message, I'm gone. You tell that bitch Sophia she has 24 hours to bring Emma to Diego, or things get really bad." In that moment, Marcus made a decision. He'd spent his life calculating risks and rewards, but this wasn't business. This was Emma, the little girl who had run to him for safety, who had taught him that his heart could actually feel something other than ambition. "Take me instead," Marcus said. "What? You want leverage? I'm worth billions. Emma is a 3-year-old child who's done nothing wrong. Let her go, take me. Diego wants to make a point? I'm a much bigger statement than a terrified toddler." The man hesitated, clearly not prepared for this scenario. In that moment of distraction, one of Marcus's bodyguards made his move. A single shot rang out, not at the man but at the ground near his feet. The man startled, his grip on Emma loosening just enough. Emma bit down hard on his hand. The man yelped and stumbled backward. Marcus lunged forward, grabbing Emma and rolling away as the bodyguards tackled the kidnapper to the ground. Police arrived within minutes. David had already called them when the situation started. Emma clung to Marcus, sobbing into his neck, her small body shaking so violently he could feel it in his bones. "You're safe, baby girl," he murmured, holding her tight. "I've got you. I've got you." But even as he comforted her, rage unlike anything he'd ever known burned through Marcus's veins. Diego had crossed a line. He'd hired someone to kidnap a child, his own daughter, as a threat. This ended now. At the police station, Emma gave a surprisingly clear statement for a 3-year-old, though she stayed in Marcus's lap the entire time. The kidnapper, a local thug with a record named Tommy Salazar, cracked immediately when faced with federal kidnapping charges. "Diego Rodriguez paid me $5,000, he told the detectives. Said to grab the kid, give a message, scare them. I didn't know she was that young, man. I got kids of my own. I never would have actually hurt her." "You traumatized a 3-year-old, Detective Martinez said coldly. "That's hurt." The police immediately issued a warrant for Diego's arrest on charges of conspiracy to kidnap, child endangerment, and violation of a restraining order. But when they went to his last known address, Diego was gone. Back at the penthouse, Sophia was inconsolable. She held Emma and cried for hours, blaming herself for ever believing they could be safe. "I should have left the country," she sobbed. taken Emma to Guatemala, hidden somewhere he could never find us. Instead, I stayed here, let myself believe we could have a normal life, put her in danger. Stop, Marcus said firmly, kneeling beside where she sat on the couch with Emma between them. You did everything right. Diego is the one who's wrong. He's the danger, not you loving your daughter enough to fight for her. But he's not going to stop, Sophia whispered.
You heard what that man said.
Diego doesn't want Emma. He wants to hurt me. He wants control. And he'll keep coming until… She couldn't finish. Emma had finally cried herself to sleep against her mother's chest. Marcus gently lifted the little girl and carried her to bed, tucking her favorite stuffed elephant under her arm. Brave girl, he whispered, kissing her forehead.
So brave.
When he returned to the living room, Sophia had composed herself slightly, though her eyes were red and swollen. I have a proposal, Marcus said, sitting beside her. And I need you to hear me out before you say no. What kind of proposal? Marry me. Sophia's mouth fell open.
What?
I know it's crazy, Marcus continued quickly. I know this isn't how these things usually go. But think about it logically. If we're married, I have legal standing to protect Emma. I can formally adopt her. Diego would have no rights, no claims. We'd have the full force of law on our side, not just restraining orders and good lawyers. Marcus, you can't. You don't just marry someone for legal protection. That's not the only reason, he interrupted, then stopped, gathering his courage. Sophia, these past few months have been the best of my life. Coming home isn't coming to an empty penthouse anymore. It's coming to Emma's laugh and your smile, and feeling like I belong somewhere. With someone. With both of you. You're talking about marriage, Sophia said weakly. Marriage it's serious. It's commitment. It's everything I want, Marcus finished. I know you might not feel the same way. I know I'm not the obvious choice. I'm emotionally closed off, I work too much, I don't know the first thing about being a husband or a father. But I love Emma like she's already mine. And you.
He took her hand.
I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have. Tears streamed down Sophia's face. This is insane. We've known each other less than a year. You're a billionaire, I'm a housekeeper. This doesn't happen in real life. And yet here we are, Marcus said softly. I'm not asking you to love me back. Not yet. I'm asking you to let me protect you and Emma in every way possible. If that means marriage, even a marriage of convenience that might someday become something more, I'll take it. Let me be what you both need. Sophia looked at him for a long moment, searching his face. You really mean this? Every word. And if I say yes, what happens when Diego is finally out of our lives? What happens when we're safe and you realize you made this huge commitment to a woman and child out of some protective instinct that fades? Marcus cupped her face gently. Then I'll still want to come home to your smile and Emma's laugh. This isn't about Diego, Sophia. He's the reason for the timing, but not the reason for the question. I need to think about it, Sophia whispered. Take all the time you need, Marcus said. But while you're thinking, know this. I'm not going anywhere. Married or not, you and Emma are under my protection. That doesn't change. That night, Sophia sat in Emma's room, watching her daughter sleep. Emma had asked for Mr. Marcus' dad 3 times before finally drifting off, her small hand reaching for his whenever he tried to leave. Could Sophia do this? Could she marry a man she barely knew, risk her heart again after Diego had shattered it so completely? Could she trust that Marcus's feelings were real and not just some hero complex? But then she thought about how he looked at Emma, with such tenderness and fierce protection. How he'd offered himself in exchange for her daughter's safety without hesitation. How in 3 months, he'd shown more genuine care than Diego had in years. The next morning, before Marcus left for a meeting, Sophia stopped him at the door. Yes, she said simply. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Not just for protection, although that's important. But because you're right, These months have been good. You've been good to us. And maybe, just maybe, we can figure out the rest together. Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was precious and fragile. We will, he promised. I swear we will. What neither of them saw was the figure across the street, watching the building with binoculars. Diego had learned patience in prison years ago. He'd learned how to wait, how to watch, how to strike when people thought they were safe. They'd caught his hired help, but that was just a message. Just a warning shot. The real game was about to begin. The wedding was small, held in Marcus's penthouse with only a handful of people present. Catherine Brennan as Sophia's witness, David as Marcus's best man, Rachel, Detective Martinez, and of course, Emma, who wore a princess dress and carried a basket of rose petals she insisted on eating instead of throwing. Do you, Marcus Chen, take Sofia Rodriguez to be your lawfully wedded wife? Marcus looked at Sofia, radiant in a simple cream dress, her eyes bright with nervous hope. I do. And do you, Sofia Rodriguez, take Marcus Chen to be your lawfully wedded husband? Sofia's voice trembled slightly. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife. They kissed, soft, tentative, full of promise and uncertainty. Emma cheered and threw rose petals everywhere, and for one perfect moment, everything felt right. The legal benefits were immediate. Marcus filed for step-parent adoption of Emma within days. Diego's lawyer tried to fight it, but with Diego now a wanted fugitive facing kidnapping charges, the court moved quickly. Within 2 months, Emma Chun was official. But the danger hadn't passed. Diego remained missing for 3 months. The police had leads, sightings in New Jersey, a possible hiding spot in Philadelphia, but he stayed ahead of them. Marcus hired private investigators, used every resource at his disposal, but Diego was careful. Life continued in cautious normalcy. Sofia and Marcus navigated their new marriage with surprising ease. What had started as practical arrangements slowly deepened into genuine partnership. They learned each other's rhythms, shared morning coffee, debated about everything from politics to what color to paint Emma's room. I never thought I'd get this, Sofia admitted one night as they lay in bed, still sleeping separately but growing closer each day. A second chance at happiness. Neither did I, Marcus confessed. I thought I'd build my empire and die alone in some expensive penthouse, surrounded by achievements, but no one who actually knew me. Do I know you now?
He thought about it.
You're getting there. Some days, I think you know me better than I know myself. Sofia propped herself up on her elbow, looking down at him. What are we doing, Marcus?
Really?
Is this real, or are we just two broken people pretending? Can it be both? He asked. We're both damaged. We both came into this for complicated reasons. But that doesn't make what we're building any less real. I'm falling in love with you, Sofia whispered, like a confession. I didn't mean to.
I tried not to.
But watching you with Emma, seeing how you've opened your heart, how you fight for us every single day. Marcus pulled her down and kissed her, properly this time, with all the feeling he'd been holding back. When they broke apart, both breathless, he said, I already fell. Weeks ago. I just didn't want to pressure you. They made love that night for the first time, tentative and tender, building something new from the ashes of their broken pasts. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Detective Martinez's voice was tight with urgency. We found Diego. He's been squatting in an abandoned building in Queens. SWAT is preparing to move in, but Chun, you need to know. He's been watching you. We found photos, surveillance notes. He knows your routine, Emma's school schedule, everything. Marcus's blood ran cold. How long? Weeks, at least.
He's obsessed.
There's writing on the walls of his hideout, rambling about revenge, about teaching lessons. This guy is completely unhinged. I want extra security on Emma's school.
Now.
Already done. But Chun, there's something else. We found communications with others, people Diego's been trying to hire for something bigger. We think he's planning. The line went dead. Marcus immediately called David. Code red. Lockdown protocol. Emma doesn't leave the building. Sophia doesn't leave the building. Full security sweep of the entire property. But Diego had already made his move. The fire alarm went off at 2 p.m. Building evacuation procedures kicked in automatically. Security protocols dictated that everyone leave, no exceptions. Marcus was in a meeting downtown. Sophia and Emma were supposed to be safe in the penthouse. But in the chaos of the evacuation, Diego had found his chance. He'd bribed a building employee, gotten access to the service elevator, disabled cameras on the 40th floor. When Sophia emerged from the penthouse with Emma, holding her daughter's hand, Diego was waiting. "Hello, wife," he said, and Sophia's world tilted. He looked terrible, gaunt, wild-eyed, desperate. But he had a gun. "You're making me do this," Diego said, his voice shaking. "You made me lose everything. My dignity, my rights, my daughter. You took her from me and gave her to some rich asshole who thinks he can buy people." "Diego, please," Sophia begged, putting herself between him and Emma. "She's just a baby. Whatever you're angry about, it's with me, not her." "She's mine," Diego roared, and Emma started crying. "She's my blood, and you tried to erase me. Changed her last name, let that bastard adopt her like I'm nothing." "You were never her father," Sophia said, her voice suddenly hard. "Fathers protect. Fathers love. Fathers don't terrorize their children and send kidnappers after them. You were just the sperm donor. Marcus is her real father." Diego's face contorted with rage. He raised the gun, and Marcus burst from the stairwell, having abandoned his car in traffic and run 17 blocks when David had called about the evacuation and Sophia not answering her phone. "Diego," Marcus shouted. "You want to shoot someone?"
Shoot me.
"Let them go." "Marcus, no." Sophia screamed. Diego swung the gun toward Marcus, his hand shaking. "You think you can buy everything? Buy my wife, my daughter, a whole new family." "I didn't buy them," Marcus said, walking slowly toward Diego, hands raised. "I earned their trust. Something you never did. Emma ran to me because I made her feel safe. Sophia married me because I treat her like she deserves to be treated. You lost them through your own actions." "Shut up." Diego's finger tightened on the trigger. Emma pulled away from Sophia and, to everyone's shock, walked toward Diego. "Emma, no," both Sophia and Marcus shouted. But Emma, just 3 years old, looked up at the man who'd terrorized her life and said in her small, clear voice, "You're not my daddy. My daddy reads me stories. My daddy makes pancakes. My daddy keeps the bad away." She turned and pointed at Marcus. "That's my daddy." Something broke in Diego's face. Maybe it was the finality of it, hearing from his own daughter's mouth that he'd lost. Maybe it was the gun heavy in his hand and the realization of what he'd become. Maybe it was 3 years of drugs and anger and pain finally cresting. The gun wavered, then dropped. Police, alerted by building security, burst onto the floor at that moment. Diego didn't resist as they handcuffed him. He just stared at Emma, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Emma buried her face in Marcus's legs, and Sophia collapsed against them both. Diego was charged with multiple felonies, violation of restraining order, weapons charges, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, criminal trespass. His lawyer attempted to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. He pled guilty to avoid trial and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. At the sentencing hearing, Diego's mother approached Sophia in the courthouse hallway. "I'm sorry," the older woman said, crying. "For my son, for everything. Emma deserves better. You deserved better." "I found better," Sophia said softly, looking at Marcus holding Emma's hand. "We both did." 6 months later, life had settled into something Sophia had never dreamed possible. Normalcy.
Peace.
Happiness. Emma started kindergarten at a private school where she made friends and brought home art projects that Marcus proudly displayed in his office. Sophia had gone back to school, studying business management with Marcus's encouragement and financial support. "You're too smart to be cleaning houses forever," he'd said. "Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I see how you organize, how you plan. You could run anything." Their marriage, which had started as protection, had blossomed into genuine love. They still had challenges. Marcus still worked too much. Sophia still had nightmares sometimes. Emma occasionally woke up crying for reassurance that the bad man was really gone. But they faced everything together. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Emma between them, Marcus said, "I've been thinking." "Dangerous," Sophia teased. "About expanding the family." Sophia's heart skipped. "Expanding? I want more of this," Marcus said, gesturing to the three of them. "More chaos, more laughter, more tiny people demanding pancakes at 6 a.m. If you want that too." Sophia looked at Emma, now peacefully dozing against Marcus's chest, then back at her husband, the man who had taken them in when they had nothing, who had fought for them, protected them, loved them. "I want everything with you," she said softly. Marcus leaned over Emma's sleeping form and kissed her. "Then everything is what we'll have." As the sun set over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, the Chin family sat together, a family not built on biology or tradition, but on choice. On love. On the fierce determination to protect what mattered most. Emma had run to Marcus crying, "He's not my dad," and in doing so, had found the father she deserved. Sophia had found not just safety, but a partner who saw her worth. And Marcus had found what his money could never buy, a family that made his enormous penthouse finally feel like home. Sometimes the family you choose is more real than the one you're born into. Sometimes a little girl's tears lead to unexpected love. Sometimes a billionaire's empty life gets filled with dinosaur-shaped pancakes and bedtime stories, and a love he never knew he needed. Sometimes the best families are forged not in perfection, but in surviving the fire together and coming out stronger on the other side. And as Emma slept peacefully between her parents, finally, truly safe, her last words before drifting off whispered the truth that had changed all their lives. "Daddy keeps the bad away." And he always would. The end.